On October 12, 1944, a cohort of Allied bombers took off from southern Italy directed toward Bologna. Their mission was to destroy the Ducati factory, which the Germans had reconverted into their own productive site during the military occupation of the peninsula. Over the previous decade, since the opening of the Borgo Panigale plant in 1935, Ducati had become the largest employer in Bologna and Italy's leading electrical company, manufacturing radio parts and receivers, video projectors, and portable-sized cameras in collaboration with the Optical Institute of Florence, and even electrical shavers, especially after the success of the first made-in-Italy model Raselet. Founded as Società Scientifica Radio Brevetti Ducati, the company sprang forth in the mid-1920s from both the enthusiasm for radio communications generated by the Bologna native Guglielmo Marconi and the excitement over the successful experiment of a young physics student, Adriano Cavalieri Ducati, who in 1924 had assembled a shortwave receiver which first connected Italy and the United States via radio. Adriano's father, Antonio Cavalieri Ducati, patented his son's device and opened a laboratory in the city on July 4, 1926, to produce it on an industrial scale. After his sudden death in 1927, his business then passed to his three children: Bruno, in charge of projects, Marcello, in charge of personnel, and Adriano, in charge of research. Over the following years, the company expanded to almost 5,000 employees, moving from the initial production of the radio capacitator Manens to a broader portfolio of products, and moving from its manufacturing site in the family villa to the newly constructed plant of Borgo Panigale. When the factory was destroyed by bombs on October 12, 1944, production was discontinued, and one of Italy's most successful industrial stories was over. What happens when all that we have built is broken? Is there anything still burning in the ashes? Material assets might evaporate quickly, as we also saw with Lamborghini or the Florios, but our key resources stay, as no one can take away our talents, our skills, and our endless desire to grow. Above all, no one can take away the possibility that something unexpected might happen, unveiling a completely different path. This is how the legend of Ducati motorcycles began. Without losing their faith, the Ducati brothers partially rebuilt their facility at their own expense, and by March 1946 had resumed production. They started over with two projects, one planned and one unplanned. The first, which they had been secretly developing since 1941 in collaboration with the optical department, was the Ducati Sogno, a revolutionary 35mm camera the size of a cigarette package, which adopted new materials, design, and technical solutions. Despite its value and innovative features, which literally made it a dream product, the camera, however, did not emerge on the market because of its high cost and special films, and its manufacture was discontinued in 1952, right before the closing of the optical section the following year. The second project related instead to urban transportation. As we saw in the episode dedicated to Corradino d'Ascanio and the invention of the Vespa, the post-war lack of resources and infrastructures had turned bicycles and scooters into sought-after vehicles of transportation. Against this backdrop, Ducati acquired the patent of a single-cylinder clip-on engine for bicycles, which the Turin lawyer Aldo Farinelli and self-taught engineer Aldo Leoni had developed during the war, and started manufacturing it in Borgo Panigale. The Cucciolo engine, literally the cub, had an unexpected success and marked the start of Ducati's motorcycle department. Despite these activities, nonetheless, the damages produced by the war made it difficult for the company to be profitable, and in 1948, the business was acquired by the state. It is at this point that the story of the Ducati brothers evolves along three independent paths, and it is at this point that their brand started to acquire an autonomous life. The Ducati brothers started three completely different stories. Bruno opened a real estate company in Milan. Marcello began producing automatic gates. And Adriano, the one who sent the first radio transmission from Italy to the United States, moved to California, where he joined Playmadine, made important contributions to the development of plasma engine, and worked with Werner von Braun at the NASA space program, which brought men to the moon in 1969. Quite a story, huh? From radio connection to moon traveling. As for the brand, Ducati would eventually split in 1954 into two separate companies. Ducati Electrical Engineering, which continued the historical legacy of the business, and Ducati Mechanics, which opened a completely different branch focused on the production of motorcycles. The best part of a book for an author is what happens after publication. Before that, it's a story that we can control. After that, it becomes something else. It's the same for any product and brand. In the same way, in fact, the legend of Ducati starts from this break, from the unforeseeable life that the product generated in dialogue with its users. The mastermind of this new story is the visionary engineer Fabio Taglioni. His hiring in 1954 is what twisted the plot of Ducati forever, making it over the following decades one of the most recognizable brands in the world. Taglioni's story with Ducati is worthy of a novel. After the opening of its motorcycling branch, Ducati was in search of new areas of growth. The success of Cucciolo had led the company to release its first and only scooter model, the Ducati Cruiser, in an attempt to compete in the urban mobility market, which was then dominated by Piaggio's Vespa and Innocenti's Lambretta. After its launch in 1952, however, the Ducati Cruiser did not take off, and production was discontinued in 1954. It was here that the company started to explore the idea of manufacturing racing bikes that could be produced serially for the market. It was during this commercial hiatus that Taglioni's creative mind envisioned a new ground for innovation and excellence. Taglioni was a mechanical engineer from Lugo, the city of World War I ace Francesco Baracca, the same place where the pilot's mother entrusted the young driver Enzo Ferrari with the prancing horse logo of her deceased son. In the early 1950s, Taglioni had made a name for himself working for the motorcycle producer Mondial, leading the company to win the MotoGiro of Italy in 1954. By mistake, however, the team did not invite him to the celebration dinner after the victory, and after that, Taglioni would never show up again. After he quit Mondial, Ford and Ferrari soon approached him with lucrative proposals, but he turned them down, intrigued by Ducati, which instead offered him an uncompensated month-long trial, but with carte blanche for all his projects. As his wife Narina put it, Taglioni accepted Ducati's bid and worked tirelessly for 40 days, designing, testing every component, and in the end, authoring the Grand Sport 100, the motorbike which would triumph at the MotoGiro of 1955 and which would become known as La Marianna. This would be the first of about 1,000 projects he would oversee over his 34-year tenure as chief designer and technical director at Ducati, bringing the company to worldwide success. As an engineer, a designer, and a fierce competitor, Taglioni not only created engines that were technically perfect and capable of achieving extraordinary performances, but also endowed them with a unique aesthetic allure. The excellence of his motorcycles consisted, in fact, in a sophisticated mix of passion and elegance, power and beauty, speed and reliability. Following the exploit of La Marianna, Taglioni would first introduce to the motorcycling world the concept of desmodromic distribution, a process which allowed racing engines to achieve very high speeds without losing efficiency. Picking up where others had failed, he perfected the system and designed a trademark L-shaped cylinder, which he first applied to the 125 GP Desmo, a light, fast and functional motorcycle which broke the world speed record and won the MotoGiro right after its launch in 1956. This motorcycle is still considered today the trailblazer of superbikes. Taglioni's models brought Ducati to international visibility in the racing world and at the same time gave the brand commercial affirmation in the serial production of high-performance and reliable motorbikes. Two contextual situations, however, are key to deciphering the extraordinary evolution of Ducati into the Ferrari of motorcycling over the following decades. The first, in 1957, was the banning of MotoGiro, a six-stage road competition starting and ending in Bologna, which had aspired to be the motorcycling equivalent of the cycling Giro d'Italia. The reason for the suspension came from a tragic accident at the 1957 edition of another endurance road race, the legendary Mille Miglia, which consisted of a 1,000-mile automobile loop from Brescia to Rome and back. The explosion of a tire in the Ferrari 335S of Spanish pilot Alfonso de Portago, which took the car off the road and caused the death of the driver and 9 spectators, shook Italian public opinion and led not just to the banning of any form of road racing in the country, but also to a long drawn-out trial against Enzo Ferrari, which almost put him out of business. Ferrari would be acquitted, but was forced to start manufacturing cars for the road to finance his racing business. In the same way, the end of road racing would bring Ducati to split road and track production. Against this backdrop, professional track races would then become a lab of technical innovation and a powerful myth-making platform, which would in turn create the aura of excellence around the Ducati models for the market. The second important circumstance that led to the global launch of the brand was the first commission of a motorbike for the American market in 1962. After the success of the Ferrari Dino in the late 1950s and the import of the Alfa Romeo Giulietta by the distributor Max Hoffmann, the Hungarian refugee Joseph Berliner, founder of a motorcycle business in New York City, contacted Taglioni in Borgo Panigale, inviting him to design a model combining the European aesthetic and technical vision with the American sense of off-road adventure. Berliner, a Holocaust survivor who was spared death in Auschwitz because of his mechanical skills, had a profound appreciation for Taglioni's engineering aesthetics in designing engines. And it was from their encounter that Ducati produced the Scrambler, which launched the brand in the United States. What happened in the decades after these events is the unexpected plot of a glorious Italian brand. I invite you to visit the webpage of Ducati to check out its models, get a sense of the value that the brand has generated in recent decades, and grasp the extension of the motorcycling culture that the company stirred. Today, Ducati Motor Holding is part of the Lamborghini Group, owned in turn by Volkswagen, and its unique story of excellence continues in the expanded plant of Borgo Panigale. What I want to emphasize here is the previously unthinkable unfolding of Ducati, from radio to motorcycles, from optics to racing, from electricity to mechanics. The Ducati story shows that a company is a living entity, that a business evolves over time, often outlasting its creators with unforeseeable fruits. What a founder or an author or an entrepreneur does is to plant a seed and cultivate a soil. Then, how the seed grows is a story to continuously cherish and discover. A plot filled with unexpected twists, like the bombing of a plant, the unplanned resonance of certain products like the Cucciolo or La Mariana, lucky coincidences, and the human element, as we powerfully see in the impact of Taglioni on the brand's new identity. So what remains after everything is destroyed? What remains after everything is sold? Our skills, our heart, but above all, the possibility that everything might happen again in a different way, that a new story might emerge with different features but the same liveliness and taste for innovation. As in an engine where a spark must occur at a precise point in the cycle to create maximum pressure, Ducati's story is a series of sparks, which led from Adriano's first radio connection in 1924 to a long-lasting and exciting journey of growth, speed, elegance, and beauty. Thank you very much for watching. If you like this video, I invite you to subscribe to this YouTube channel or to the webpage www.italianinnovators.com to receive notifications of new episodes. You can also follow me on my LinkedIn profile or on Instagram at Italian Innovators for additional materials about the show. Thanks again, arrivederci e alla prossima.